Good evening, my dear students. It's my pleasure to introduce you the second class of bio, and I'm going to explain this day the appendicular skeleton. The last time I explained the axial skeleton, if you remember, I told you the axial skeleton consists of three parts, okay? The first part was the skull, the second vertebral column, the third thoracic cage, okay? Today I'm going to explain what we call appendicular skeleton. The meaning of appendicular skeleton, this is two parts, and as you know, the pectoral girdle and the upper limb, okay, and pelvic girdle and lower limb. The appendicular skeleton again consists of two main parts. This is the first part, pectoral girdle and the upper limb, and pectoral girdle and the lower limb. The first, which I'm going to start with, this pectoral girdle and the upper limb, okay? The pectoral girdle, this is two identical halves. Okay, what is meant by two identical halves? This is mean the right side of your body exactly the same of your left side of your body. The right side exactly the same like the left side. This is why he's going to say this is pectoral girdle consists of two identical halves. Each half consists of two bones. The first bone we call it clavicle. The first bone we call it clavicle, and the second we call it scapula. The second bone we call it scapula. By the way, this is exists inside your birth anteriorly, okay, and this exists actually posteriorly, okay. Let's start with the first one, which I'm going to call it clavicle. As you see, this is the clavicle, okay. This is ventral thin bone. You see, it's so clear, this is thin bone, and it exists inside your body anteriorly, okay? So this is the clavicle. This is the clavicle, okay? Together, if you remember, I told you that pectoral girdle consists of two identical halves, and each half consists of a bone, we call it scapula, and a bone, another bone, we call it clavicle. This is the scapula and this is the clavicle, okay, if you see it. The scapula, as you see, I think it's clear, this is triangular bone, its outer end, okay, and inner end. What is meant by outer end and inner end? I mean, its inner end inside your body, the middle of your body, while its outer end, this is the outer part of your body. Again, the inner end, okay, and the outer end. By the way, you're going to see that there is depression, okay, and we're going to call this depression glenoid cavity. We're going to call it glenoid cavity. And inside this, the head of humerus fits. Inside this bone, the head of humerus fits. Form what we call shoulder joint. You know the shoulder joint? This is the joint inside your body, okay? Shoulder joint, the connection between a bone, we call it humerus, and the cavity inside the scapula, which we call glenoid cavity, okay? Glenoid cavity, I told you cavity, present at the outer end of scapula. Cavity present at the outer end of scapula, and inside which the humerus bone fit, okay, forming shoulder joint. Again, the glenoid cavity present at the outer end of scapula, and inside which the head of humerus bone is fitted, forming shoulder joint. Okay, this is the glenoid cavity, and this is the head of the humerus fits forming shoulder joint. Okay? The clavicle. This is the clavicle, if you remember. They told us ventral. You know what's meant by ventral? This is anterior. Sometimes they call it the collarbone, or beauty bone. They call it collarbone or beauty bone. Exists anteriorly and attached, if you remember, the centrum. Attached at the upper part of the centrum. Attached here at the upper part of centrum, okay? And I told you this is ventral, thin bone attached anteriorly to the centrum. Laterally, it's connected laterally to the scapula, okay? Attached laterally to the scapula, okay? And scapula, like you know, I told you this is triangular dorsal bone. Why we call it triangular? The shape of triangle, okay? 3 sides. Why we call it dorsal? Exists at the back of your body. That's what I mean by dorsal, okay? This is inner end, broad. It's inner, inside your body, okay? In the middle of your body, broad. And the outer point is pointed with a process to which the clavicle is connected like this, okay? The upper limb consists of, each upper limb consists of, the first part of upper limb, we call it humerus. We call it humerus, okay? This is the bone which fits inside the glenoid cavity and will be connected with bone exist in the forearm, okay? At the end of the humerus, there is process which fits in a depression, we call it ulna. This is bone, we call it ulna. And this is another bone, we call it radius. Again, I told you at the end of humerus, there is a big process, okay? Fit in the ulna, bone, okay? By the way, what is the ulna and radius? They are 2 bones which form the forearm. 2 bones which form the forearm, okay? The ulna is connected with the humerus, but the radius is not connected to the humerus, okay? I'm going to explain 2 facts of radius and ulna, okay? The radius and the ulna. Ulna, this is larger bone a little, radius smaller bone a little. Again, ulna, larger a little, and connected to the humerus, okay? This is the shape of ulna, okay? And there is depression into which the process of humerus fits to form, if you remember, to form what we call it elbow. You know the elbow, okay? The ulna connected with your humerus, but the radius not connected with your humerus. So, humerus connected with ulna, not connected with radius. The 2 bones together, they form what we call the forearm. You know the forearm? This, okay? Radius, a small bone, can rotate around said ulna. Be careful for this part. Ulna, okay, this is fixed, connected to humerus, while radius, a small, and rotate around fixed ulna, okay? At the end of your bone, which we call it radius, it will be connected to another part, we call it wrist. You know the wrist bone? You know the wrist? Okay? The wrist bones, there are 8 bones arranged into wrist bone. There are 8 bones arranged in 2 rows. Okay? They connected with the lower part of the radius. Again, the wrist connected with the lower part of radius. Okay? I'm going to put the 8 bones. You're going to have, by the way, the wrist bone, we call them carpools. Wrist bone, which are 8 bones and arranged into rows, we call them carpools. They are followed by the hand palm bone. There are 5 long thin bones, 5 long thin bones, and we call them metacarpools. The rest, we call it carpools. The hand palm, we call them metacarpools. 5 thin bones, okay? After you finish the 5 long thin bone, you're going to start with the phalanges. You know what the phalanges? Okay? This is small bones exist inside your finger. Each finger divided into, okay, 3 phalanges. Each finger consists of 3 phalanges, 3 phalanges, 3 phalanges, except the thumb, which consists of 2 phalanges only. So, I need you to remember and what are the number of bones inside your upper arm. I'm going to start with the first part, we call it humerus, 1 bone. This is forearm, radius, and ulna. There are 2 bones. The rest, they are 8 bones, are in 2 rows. Finally, the hand palm, this is 5 bones, and end with phalanges, which consist of 3 phalanges in each finger, except the thumb, which consists of 2 phalanges. So the total number of bone inside your upper arm, this is 1 and 2, 3, plus 8 will be 11, plus 5 will be 16, and 14 phalanges, so the total number of will be 30. Let's make a revision for what I explained. Let's see inside your PowerPoint. The upper limb, each upper limb consists of, okay, upper arm. I told you this is supported by 1 bone, we call it humerus. Start with a head, the head of humerus, okay, fits into glenoid cavity, and at its end there is inner projection. You remember the inner projection? This inner projection, we call it glenoid cavity, okay? The second part, this is forearm. You see the forearm? It consists of 2 bones, which are the first, ulna. Its upper part has a depression, okay? Has a depression, which the inner projection of the humerus fits. This is the ulna. While the radius, I told you this is smaller in size than ulna and can rotate a semicircular motion around fixed ulna. By the way, try to note this radius start with R, this one, which can rotate. Radius start with R, can rotate. While ulna, it's fixed. By the way, try to make yourself remember all differences. I told you radius start with R, this rotate, while ulna fixed, okay? Ulna rotate around, okay, sorry. Radius rotate around fixed ulna. Radius rotate, radius rotate. So the ulna is fixed, okay? Anatomically, you must take care. Radius exists with the thumb. Radius anatomically exists with the thumb. If you are going to change your hand position, okay, see what is written? This will be like this. Anatomically, the radius bone is present outward. You know outward? Outside the body. And the same line of thumb, okay? The radius can rotate semicircular rotation around fixed ulna, okay? The number of bones that form elbow joint, there are 3 bones, humerus, radius, and ulna, okay? I'm going to start with a new part. We call it pelvic girdle and lower limb. The pelvic girdle and lower limb, okay? The pelvic girdle, this is the lower part of your body, okay? As you see it, maybe it's larger a little, okay? The lower part of your body. This is part at the back of your body, a bone, we call it dorsal bone ilium. Dorsal bone ilium. Attached anteriorly with the bone. This bone, I'm going to call it pubis, and this bone, I'm going to call it ischium. You see it again? This bone, I'm going to call it ischium, and this bone, we call it pubis. And the upper part, this is ilium. Excellent. There are three bones fused together to make one bone. Again, I told you this is the second part of appendicular skeleton. The second part of appendicular skeleton. Okay? Appendicular skeleton consists of two identical halves, exactly the same like pectoral girdle. Two identical halves, the left side and the right side. The left side and the right side. The two identical halves fused, okay, at a region, we call it pubic symphysis. The two identical halves fused together at a region, we call it pubic symphysis, okay? The dorsal one, ilium, okay? Anteriorly attached to bone, we call pubis, and the bone, we call it ischium, okay? The outer part of the pelvic bone, you have a deep depression. You have a deep depression. Look at the deep depression. Into which the head of the femur fit forming hip joint, the outer part of pelvic bone. This is the place of attachment, the three bones together. By the way, there are three bones, but you are going to count them just one bone. Again, there are three bones, but you are going to count them as one bone, okay? At the place of attachment, the deep depression, we call depression glenoid cavity. We call the deep depression, we call the deep depression acetabulum. We call the deep depression acetabulum, into which the head of femur bone fits for hip joint. This is your lower part, okay? This is your lower part. This is the acetabulum, into which the head of femur fit forming hip joint, and it's a wide movable joint, okay? As if your femur, look at it, there are two big processes. There are two big processes, okay? At the end of your femur bone. By the way, this is the largest bone inside your body. Largest bone inside your body. At the lower part of it, there are two processes which articulate with shank bone. You know shank? Two bones which form the lower part, okay, of your leg. They form a joint, we call it knee joint. You know the knee joint? Knee, okay? And the knee joint consists of two bones. After the lower part or the shank bone, you have two bone. Bone, we call it tibia, bone we call it fibula. Two bones form the shank bone, tibia and fibula. By the way, tibia, this is T-I-B-I-A, so I, it will be the inner bone. You know what is meant by inner? This is the bone inside your body, in the middle of your body, okay? Tibia, I will be the inner, while fibula, this is the outer one. By the way, tibia, larger a little in size, while fibula is smaller in size. At their end, you have ankle bone, okay? Ankle, there are 7 bones at the foot, okay? All your body weight fixed on the 7 bones. By the why they are different from wrist? If you remember our wrist, I told you there are 8 bones. The wrist, 8 bones. Why the ankle here is 8 bone? Why the ankle here 7 bones? Okay, at the beginning and type of evolution, 2 bones fused together. 2 bones fused together to form one large bone. We call it the heel. They form large bone. We call it the heel. Okay, on which all body weight is fixed or settled on it. Okay, so we call the ankle bone tarsoles. We call the ankle bone, which their number is 7. We call them tarsoles. And after the foot, you have 5 long bone. We call them metatarsals. And also like hand with phalanges. Okay, each toe consists of 3 phalanges, except the big toe consists of 2 phalanges only. Let's start to see them, and I'm going to make a revision, okay, for what I'm studied in the lower part. Okay, this is the shape of pelvic girdle and the lower limb. A bone I called, if you remember, ilium, and a bone called biopus, okay, and a bone called ischium. They are fused together at a place of attachment. We called it acetibulum. The 2 identical halves fused together at a part. We call it pubic symphysis. Okay, pubic symphysis. This is the shape of side view of pelvic girdle. And key point, if you are going to understand them, the number of pelvic bone, they are 4. The number of pelvic bone, they are 4. 2 pelvic bone, right side and left side. 2 pelvic bone, the right side and the left side. And 1 sacral. By the way, the sacral, there are 5 vertebra, but 1 bone. Coccygeal, there are 4 vertebra, but 1 bone. So the number of pelvic bone, they are 4. Different in pelvic girdle between human male and female. By the way, I'm going quickly to make you understand the difference. This is pelvis in male. Its angle, this is smaller than the L in female pelvis. This is why, okay? Pelvis in female, its angle more wider to help in pregnancy and facilitate pregnancy, you know? While in male, sure, there is no pregnancy. This is why the angle, okay, more smaller. Bones in male is stronger, while bones in female weaker. Okay, the bone in male is stronger, the bone of female weaker. The angle, this is smaller, the angle, this is wider to facilitate pregnancy. The number and the count of bone, the 3 bone, we're going to count them 1 because they are fused. The 3 bone, we're going to count them 1 because they are fused. And this, the sacral and coccygeal, 1 bone and 1 bone, okay? The lower limb, each lower limb consists of, okay, a bone, we call it femur, okay? And the femur fits in a cavity, we call it acetibulum. By the way, glenoid cavity and acetibulum. Glenoid cavity, this is the shoulder joint, okay? While acetibulum, this is hip joint. By the way, hip joint, this is, it's a depression deeper. The hip joint, it's a depression deeper. Acetibulum, it's a cavity deeper than shoulder joint. Maybe you heard before about shoulder dislocation. You know shoulder dislocation? While hip joint difficult, okay, because it's a cavity or acetabulum more deeper, okay? The lower limb, I told you, consists of the first bone, femur. Sometimes they call it thigh bone, okay? Fits in acetabulum cavity, and it's long. There are two big processes, if you remember, that articulate with shank at knee joint. And in front of it, there's a patella, a small round bone. In front of it, there is patella, and it's a small bone, okay? Patella, a small round bone that is present in front of knee joint, okay? Shank bone, there are two bones. Be careful. I told you tibia, this is eye and eye, this will be the inner bone. This will be the inner bone. The outer fibula. You know what's meant by inner and outer? Inner, inside your body, while fibula, this will be outside your body, okay? Foot bones, which consist of, this is the part which we are going to end the lower limb. Foot bone, they are ankle bone, and they consist of 7 bones. Sure, they are irregular in shape, okay? We call them tarsoles. The largest one at the back, which form the heel. Foot bones, okay, again, consist of 5 bones. We call them metatarsoles, which are long and thin. Each of them ended with toe. And the 5 toes, one of them consists of 3 phalanges, except the big toe, which has 2 phalanges only. Okay? This is the 2 phalanges. This is 1 and 2. While the other, all of them, 3 phalanges. While the other, there are 3 phalanges. To be creative, to be supported, okay? To not forget, every effort you are going to do, it will be consumed, okay? It will not be lost. So, trust yourself, trust your abilities, okay? Do your effort. This is your year. Fight for it. Struggle. Do not waste your time, okay? This year, make difference. Thank you. Wishing you all the luck. Thank you.